I learned that family can bleed you dry in more ways than one on the morning of my daughter's 9th birthday, when I found a hotel invoice in my trash can that proved my mother had been planning my sister's party for weeks, while telling my child she was too busy to come. The pink balloons I had spent 2 hours inflating bobbed gently in the October breeze, mocking me with their cheerfulness. I stood in my backyard at 6:30 in the morning, surveying the princess-themed paradise I had created for Mila. The bounce house had cost $275, money I had scraped together by skipping lunches for 3 weeks. The pixelated princess cake sat in my refrigerator, its fondant towers perfect and gleaming. Every streamers, every banner, every carefully arranged favor bag represented a choice I had made between my daughter's happiness and my own exhausted body's need for rest. Mila appeared at the sliding glass door, her face pressed against the glass, her breath fogging up the window. She wore the royal purple birthday dress we had found at the thrift store, the one she had begged for, the one I had layered away for 2 months. Her smile could have powered the entire neighborhood. That smile was the only thing that kept me going most days. "Where are Grandma and my aunts, Mama? They promised they would come early." Her voice carried that peculiar blend of hope and doubt that 9-year-olds master when they have been disappointed before, but desperately want to believe this time will be different. I forced my face into what I hoped was a reassuring expression, though I could feel the tension pulling at the corners of my mouth. "They will be here, sweetie. You know how traffic can be." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue, but what else could I say? That her grandmother valued bottomless mimosas at an upscale brunch spot more than watching her blow out candles? That her aunts had probably not even remembered what day it was. The party was scheduled to start at 11. At 10:45, only Aunt Carol had arrived, carrying a thoughtfully wrapped present and a casserole dish full of her famous mac and cheese. She hugged me tight enough that I could feel her disappointment in the absence of the others radiating through her embrace. Mila's face fell with each car that passed without stopping, with each minute that ticked by without the arrival of the people she loved most. My phone buzzed at 11:15, a text from my mother, Eleanor, in the family group chat. "Sorry, honey, we got caught up. Do not make such a big deal out of it. It is just a kid's party. We will make it up to her at Christmas. Promise." I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles went white. Just a kid's party. As if Mila's 9th birthday, the one she had been planning and talking about for months, was some trivial inconvenience in their busy schedules. As if my daughter's feelings were negotiable. I plastered on my brightest smile and threw myself into entertaining Mila's school friends, leading games and serving cake, and pretending that my heart was not breaking with every glance Mila shot toward the driveway. She was such a good kid, trying so hard to look happy for her friends, while her eyes kept searching for the grandmother who had promised to bring her a special surprise. It was during the piñata portion of the party when my phone lit up with an Instagram notification. Savannah had posted a new photo. Against my better judgment, I opened it. The image showed my mother, my 2 sisters, and several of their friends raising champagne flutes in an ornate restaurant. The caption read, "Family is number 1." The timestamp showed it had been posted 20 minutes ago, right when Mila had been asking me for the 3rd time if I thought Grandma was okay. The rage that flooded through me was so intense I had to step into the house and grip the kitchen counter to steady myself. They were not coming. They had never planned to come. While my daughter had been watching the driveway with hopeful eyes, they had been posing for social media at some trendy brunch spot, performing the idea of family for strangers on the internet, while abandoning the actual child who loved them. I made it through the rest of the party on autopilot, my smile frozen in place, my voice bright and encouraging as I helped kids with crafts and handed out goodie bags. When the last guest left, when Aunt Carol finally drove away after helping me clean up, I sat down on the couch with Mila curled up against me. Did Grandma forget? Mila's voice was so small, so defeated. I do not know, baby, but it does not matter. We had fun, did not we? Your friends had a great time. She nodded, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. That night, after I tucked her into bed, I stood in her doorway watching her sleep. In the quiet darkness, I heard her whisper a prayer. Dear God, please make Grandma love me more. That single sentence shattered something inside me that I had not even realized was still whole. A tear rolled down my cheek, then another. Then I was sobbing silently in the hallway, my hand pressed against my mouth to muffle the sound. How many times had I made excuses for them? How many times had I told myself that family was complicated, that they loved us in their own way, that I just needed to be more understanding? Enough. The word echoed in my mind like a gunshot. Enough. I walked to my home office and opened my laptop. For the next 3 hours, I created a spreadsheet. Every loan I had given and never been repaid. Every favor I had done that had never been reciprocated. Every promise they had broken. Every event they had missed. Every time they had used my good nature and sense of family obligation against me. Column after column of data, dates, and dollar amounts. The total took my breath away. $23,470. That was just the money. It did not account for the vacation days I had burned driving them to appointments, the nights I had spent watching their kids while they went out, the emotional labor of being the family peacemaker, the therapist, the ATM machine. I saved the document in a folder I titled Boundaries. Then I allowed myself to cry until I had no tears left. The following week brought a new level of audacity I had not thought possible, even from my family. A message appeared in the family group chat at 7:30 on Monday morning while I was packing Mila's lunch. Breaking news! The venue for Savannah's 26th birthday has been confirmed. $1,850 per guest, and Maya will cover Mom's portion since she has the stable income. Attached was a PDF file. I opened it with shaking hands. There, in glossy, full-color mock-up, was a promotional image for Savannah's birthday weekend. A beach resort in Santa Barbara, a 3-day event. And there, at the bottom of the sponsorship page, was my LinkedIn profile photo, under the heading Platinum Sponsor. I pulled up my banking app. $4,213.47. That was my current balance. That money was earmarked for Mila's braces. Her teeth were starting to crowd, and the orthodontist had said we needed to act soon to avoid more serious problems later. I had been saving for 8 months, putting away $50 or $75 whenever I could spare it. I thought about Grandma Rose's silver ring, the only family heirloom I had ever received. The one I had sold last year to pay for Mila's emergency room visit when she broke her arm falling off the monkey bars. Gone. Traded for an X-ray and a cast, while my mother and sisters posted photos of their weekend wine tasting trip. Another message popped up. Lacey this time. Maya, you are an accountant. You handle the deposit, okay? Deadline is this Friday. It was not a request. It was a command. Casual and entitled, as if my money and my labor were simply resources for them to deploy as they saw fit. My hands trembled as I opened Venmo. I typed in my mother's name. I entered $1 in the amount field. In the notes section, I wrote, "Congratulations." I took a screenshot and saved it to the Boundaries folder. Then I took a deep breath and hit send. That afternoon, I called a locksmith. He arrived at 4 and changed every lock in my house. The sound of the old locks being removed, the solid click of the new deadbolt sliding into place, felt like the most satisfying music I had ever heard. These were my locks now, my home, my sanctuary. Next, I drafted an email to the Santa Barbara Resort. I attached copies of the chat messages and screenshots proving I had never authorized the use of my name or likeness as a sponsor. I explained politely but firmly that any charges associated with this event should not be billed to me, and that I was not affiliated with the planning in any capacity. The hotel manager responded within an hour, apologizing for the confusion and confirming that my name had been removed from all promotional materials. By the time Mila came home from school, I had made spaghetti, her favorite. We ate together at the kitchen table, and for the first time in months, I was not checking my phone every 5 minutes, not bracing for the next demand or guilt trip. We laughed. We talked about her day. She told me about a boy named Marcus who had brought a lizard to school and how Mrs. Patterson had screamed. The doorbell rang at 8:47. I checked the peephole and felt my stomach drop. My mother, Savannah, and Lacey stood on my porch, their faces distorted with fury. "Maya Allen, open this door right now." My mother's voice carried the imperious tone of someone who had never been told no, who believed that volume and indignation could substitute for reason. The pounding started, aggressive, relentless. Savannah's voice joined in. "You cannot hide in there forever. We know you are home." I pulled Mila close, my hand over her shoulder. "Should I call the police, Mama?" Before I could answer, I heard sirens. My mother had beaten us to it. Within minutes, 2 police cars pulled up. Officer Thompson stepped out of the first one. I recognized him immediately. He had been Mila's soccer coach 2 years ago, a kind man with 3 daughters of his own. I opened the door, keeping the chain lock engaged. "Officer Thompson, thank you for coming. There seems to be some confusion." My mother pushed forward. "She is holding our family heirlooms hostage. She sent threatening messages. She is trying to destroy this family." Officer Thompson looked from my mother to me. "Ma'am, I am going to need to speak with everyone separately. Miss Allen, may I come inside?" I unchained the door and invited him in. Mila sat on the couch, her eyes wide. I brought Officer Thompson to the kitchen table and pulled out my laptop. I showed him everything: the spreadsheet detailing years of financial exploitation, the screenshots of messages showing the pattern of demands and guilt trips, the email exchange with the hotel, the Venmo receipt showing my $1 congratulations payment, bank statements highlighting where my money had gone to bail them out of situation after situation. I explained, calmly, methodically, how I had been supporting 3 adult women financially for years while struggling to provide for my daughter. How every boundary I had tried to set had been met with accusations of being selfish, of abandoning family, of thinking I was better than them. How they had used my love for them and my fear of being alone as weapons against me. Officer Thompson took notes, his expression growing more serious as I spoke. When I finished, He looked at me with something like respect. Miss Allen, you are not in any legal trouble here. What you have described is financial abuse. I am going to speak with your family members, but I want you to know that you have every right to set boundaries and protect yourself and your daughter. He went outside. I could hear raised voices, my mother's shrill protests, Savannah's angry accusations. Then silence. A few minutes later, car doors slammed. Engine started. They were leaving. Officer Thompson came back to the door. They have agreed to leave. I have advised them that any further harassment could result in a restraining order. You have my card if you need anything. After he left, I checked on Mila. She had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted by the drama. I carried her to bed, tucked her in, and sat on the edge of her mattress, stroking her hair. My phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Carol. You did the right thing. They are furious, but the truth is on your side. Another from Mrs. Wilson, my elderly neighbor. I have banana bread waiting for you whenever you are ready. A message from James, my coworker, offering to swap shifts if I needed time off. An email from Mila's teacher. She seemed so much happier this week. These were the people who showed up, not with grand gestures or empty promises, but with quiet, consistent kindness. I saved each message, adding them to a new folder I titled Real Family. The next morning, I woke to my phone blowing up with notifications. Savannah had posted on Facebook at 6:30. When toxic people show their true colors, some people pretend to care about family until they are asked to contribute. Money matters more than blood to some. The post had 17 comments, all from people who did not know me, did not know the full story, happily piling on with their judgments. My cousin Brenda had written, "Wow, family should come first." Ashley, one of Savannah's salon clients, added, "Some people are just selfish." I read through the comments, each one like a needle prick. None of these people had asked for my side. None of them knew about the $23,000, the missed birthday, the years of one-sided giving. I was the villain in a story they had written without me. For a moment, I felt the old instinct rising, the urge to defend myself, to explain, to make them understand. Then I realized something liberating. I did not owe strangers on the internet my pain. I did not need to justify my boundaries to people who had already decided I was wrong. I typed a simple response. I wish you all the very best. Then I logged out of Facebook and deleted the app from my phone. An hour later, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number with a local area code. I answered hesitantly. Maya? This is your Uncle Robert, your dad's brother. I had not spoken to Uncle Robert in over a decade. He had moved to Oregon when I was a teenager, and contact had faded. Why was he calling now? Your mother tried to rope me into her side of things, sent me a long message about how you have abandoned the family, how you are being cruel and selfish. His voice was measured, careful. I thought you should know something. You are not the first person she has done this to. What do you mean? Why do you think your father left, Maya? The question hit me like a physical blow. My father had walked out when I was 12. My mother had always painted him as the villain, the man who abandoned his responsibilities, who chose freedom over family. But now, Uncle Robert's words opened a door I had never considered. He sent me a photo. I will text it to you. Look at it and tell me what you see. The image came through a moment later. My father as a young boy, maybe 5 years old. But what struck me was his expression. The sunken eyes. The way his shoulders curved inward, as if he was trying to make himself smaller. the defeated posture of a child who had learned that his needs did not matter. She drained him for years, Maya. Emotionally, financially. Made him responsible for her happiness, for fixing her problems, for keeping the peace. By the time he left, he was a shell. I watched it happen. She has done the same thing to you. I sat down heavily on my couch, my mind reeling. History repeating itself. The pattern so clear now that someone had named it. Uncle Robert continued. I should have reached out sooner. I regret that. But I am here now if you need someone who understands. After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. All those years I had believed I was the problem. That if I just tried harder, gave more, loved better, my family would value me. But the truth was simpler and more painful. They had been taught by my mother that love was transactional, that family existed to serve their needs, and that anyone who pushed back was the enemy. That afternoon, Mrs. Wilson knocked on my door. She handed me a casserole dish and an envelope. Inside was a $200 gift card to Target. No name on the card, no strings attached. We have been watching, dear. Some of us in the neighborhood. A few of us have been where you are. Family can be wonderful, or it can be a swamp. You are doing the brave thing. I tried to refuse the gift card, but she pressed it into my hands. For Mila, for something fun. You deserve to spoil that sweet girl without guilt. That night, I redid my budget. Without the constant drain of my family's emergencies and demands, I had an extra $732 per month. Enough for Mila's braces, enough for her school activities, enough for a modest summer vacation, just the two of us. I opened a college savings account in Mila's name and set up an automatic transfer, $50 every 2 weeks. It was not much, but it was a start. A future I was building for her, brick by brick. The weeks that followed brought a strange mixture of peace and turbulence. The peace came from the absence of chaos. No more 3 a.m. calls about emergencies that required immediate money. No more guilt trips about missing events I had never been properly invited to. No more walking on eggshells, trying to manage everyone's emotions while neglecting my own. Mila noticed the change. She started sleeping better. Her teacher sent another email commenting on how much more engaged and confident she seemed in class. At home, she laughed more easily, asked for help with homework without that undertone of worry that I might be too stressed to assist. One evening, she brought home an assignment from school. My Hero, the title read. She had drawn a picture of the two of us holding hands, surrounded by hearts. The caption underneath said, "My mom teaches me that love should not hurt." I called her teacher the next day. "Miss Patterson, thank you for the email about Mila. She seems so different lately." The teacher's voice was warm. "Whatever changes you have made at home, keep doing them." She told me during recess that she does not worry about you as much anymore. Children carry so much of their parents' stress. It is beautiful to see a child lightening. The Thanksgiving invitation arrived in early November, slipped under my door while I was at work. "Maya, we miss you. Water under the bridge if you contribute $750 for the venue. The family needs to heal." I held the card, looking at the generic stock photo of a turkey on the front. $750. For the privilege of sitting at a table with people who had shown me over and over that my value to them was purely financial. I placed the invitation next to a photo of Mila at her school award ceremony, where she had received a certificate for Most Improved in Math. I knew where my $750 was going. New winter clothes for a growing girl. The class field trip to the Science Museum she had been excited about. A small emergency fund, so the next time something broke, I would not have to panic. I sat down and wrote a letter. Not an emotional outpouring, but a clear, factual document. I listed every loan that had never been repaid with dates and amounts. Every promise that had been broken. Every event I had prioritized while mine were dismissed. Every time I had been expected to sacrifice while receiving nothing in return. I outlined my terms for future contact. Respect for my boundaries. No financial requests. Acknowledgement that my time and resources had value. Equal treatment for Mila compared to my sister's children. I sent copies to my mother, both sisters, and one to Pastor Wallace at the church my mother attended, with a note explaining the situation. The final line of each letter read, "This is not about money. It is about respect." The responses came quickly. Savannah sent a long text about how I was tearing the family apart over dollars and cents, how I had always been the difficult one, how Mila would grow up without knowing her grandmother. Lacey sent an email suggesting a family healing retreat in Arizona, only $2,300 per person. Eleanor called. Her voice was tight, with barely controlled anger. "Maya, you need to fix this. Your mother and sisters have been fighting constantly since that letter arrived. It is your responsibility to make peace." I took a breath, centering myself. I am not responsible for managing adult relationships between other adults. That is not my job. But you have always been the reasonable one. Yes, that is exactly why I am making a different choice now. She hung up on me. 2 days later, she showed up at my office. I was in the middle of reviewing a quarterly report when my coworker Sarah appeared at my cubicle, looking uncomfortable. "Maya, there are some women here to see you. They seem upset." My mother, Savannah, and Lacey stood in the lobby. Eleanor marched toward me, her designer purse swinging like a weapon. She slammed it down on my desk, scattering my carefully organized papers. "Family comes first!" I stood, keeping my voice level. "I am at work. This is not an appropriate place for this conversation. If you would like to talk, we can schedule a time." "We are talking now!" Savannah's voice rose, drawing stares from other cubicles. I walked them to the break room, closing the door behind us. My mother launched into a speech about forgiveness, about family obligations, about how I was being selfish and stubborn. Savannah interjected with accusations. Lacey cried about how I was ruining holidays. I let them talk until they ran out of steam. Then I asked a simple question. "Did you tell Pastor Wallace why we are estranged?" My mother's face tightened. "That was private, family business. You made it public when you involved our church community. Did you tell him about the $23,000? About Mila's birthday? About showing up at my workplace to harass me?" Silence. Eleanor tried to regroup, pivoting to a new emotional appeal. But I was done playing that game. "I care about Mila. I care about building a healthy life. If you want to be part of that life, the terms I outlined are non-negotiable. If not, I understand. But I will not debate this anymore." I opened the break room door and walked back to my desk. They did not follow. That evening, James stopped by my cubicle as I was packing up. "You okay? I heard there was some drama." "I am okay. Better than I have been in a long time, actually." He hesitated. "A few of us are getting drinks after work Friday. You should come. No pressure, just if you want to hang out with people who appreciate you." I had not socialized in months. The idea was both terrifying and appealing. Okay, I would like that. Friday night, I hired a babysitter for the first time in over a year. Mrs. Wilson's granddaughter, a responsible high school senior. I put on a dress that was not yoga pants or work clothes. I met James and 3 other co-workers at a brew pub downtown. It was such an ordinary thing. Drinking a beer, laughing at stories, talking about movies and books and weekend plans. But it felt revolutionary. This was what normal people did. They spent time with friends who did not drain them. They relaxed, without waiting for the other shoe to drop. James walked me to my car at the end of the night. I am glad you came. We do not see you outside the office enough. I have been pretty isolated, family stuff, but I am working on it. Well, you have friends here. If you ever need anything, I mean it. The genuine warmth in his voice made my eyes sting with unexpected tears. Thank you. That means more than you know. December arrived with its usual flurry of holiday expectations. A Christmas card from my mother, the kind with a professionally photographed family portrait that included Savannah's kids and Lacey's new puppy, but somehow failed to include Mila and me. The message inside read, "Family should be together. We all make mistakes." A text from Savannah. "I miss my niece. Tyler has been asking about Mila." An email from Lacey about a family healing trip to Arizona. Only $2,300 per person. We could really reconnect. I read each message with a strange detachment. There was no apology. No acknowledgement of wrongdoing. No actual change in behavior. Just the expectation that I would eventually cave, that my need for family would overpower my self-respect. I drafted a single response, identical for all 3. "We have moved forward. I wish you all the very best." Then I turned my attention to creating a Christmas that Mila would actually enjoy. Aunt Carol drove 3 hours to spend the weekend with us. James brought over a casserole his mother had made, enough to feed us for 3 days. Mrs. Wilson arrived with mulled apple cider and homemade cookies. Uncle Robert sent a package from Oregon containing hand-knit scarves for both of us, and a beautiful leather-bound journal. On the first page of the journal, he had written, "Our family of 2." I stared at those words for a long time. He had crossed out 2 and written several. Beneath it, he had listed names. Me, Mila, himself, Aunt Carol, Mrs. Wilson. Even James, though. Uncle Robert had never met him. Family is not just blood. It is who shows up. On Christmas Eve, our small apartment glowed with simple decorations. A modest tree that Mila and I had decorated together, each ornament chosen with care. Stockings hanging on the wall since we had no fireplace. The air filled with the scent of the ham Aunt Carol had brought, and the cookies Mrs. Wilson had baked. We sat around my small dining table, this collection of people who had chosen to love us. Mila laughed at Uncle Robert's terrible jokes. James taught her a card game. Mrs. Wilson told stories about her childhood Christmases during the Depression. Aunt Carol proposed a toast. To families we build, to the people who show up, to second chances and new beginnings. We clinked our glasses. Mila's eyes shone with pure happiness, uncomplicated by the anxiety and disappointment that had shadowed her for so long. Later, after everyone had gone home and Mila was asleep, I sat at my kitchen table with the leather journal Uncle Robert had given me. I wrote a single sentence. Real family is not defined by blood, but by who shows up when it matters. I looked at the wall where I had hung a new photo. Mila and me, Aunt Carol, Mrs. Wilson, James, and Uncle Robert at Thanksgiving. All of us laughing at something ridiculous James had said. Below the photo was a small wooden sign I had bought at a craft fair. Our family. Not the family I had been born into. Not the family that had taught me my value was in how much I could give while expecting nothing in return. But the family I had chosen. The family that had chosen me back. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. One last attempt to break through my boundaries. For Mila's 10th birthday, we want to make it special. We owe her that. I looked at the message for a long moment. Then I typed a response. We have plans. Thank you for thinking of her. I did not add that those plans were already in motion. A small picnic at the park with her closest friends. A cake I would bake myself. Invitations to the people who had actually shown up for her over the past year. No elaborate venue. No stressed-out mother trying to impress people who would not appreciate it anyway. Just joy. Just love. Just us. The next morning, an envelope arrived in the mail. My mother's handwriting on the outside. Inside was a crisp $50 bill and a card. Happy early birthday to Mila. We miss you both. No apology. No accountability. Just money. As if $50 could substitute for presence, for reliability, for genuine love. But I noticed something. The tone had shifted. It was not a demand. It was not an expectation. It was an offering. Tentative and uncertain. I placed the $50 in Mila's birthday fund. Maybe my mother was starting to understand. Maybe she was not. Either way, it was no longer my job to manage her emotions or teach her how to be in relationship with us. I had given her the roadmap. What she did with it was her choice. I won. Not in the dramatic, explosive way I had sometimes fantasized about during the worst moments. Not with a confrontation where I delivered the perfect speech and they finally understood everything they had done wrong. I won by taking my life back. By teaching my daughter that love should not hurt, should not demand, should not drain. By surrounding us with people who showed up consistently, who respected boundaries, who celebrated our joy instead of diminishing it. I won by waking up each morning without the weight of other people's expectations crushing my chest. By making plans based on what Mila and I actually wanted instead of what would keep the peace. By building a savings account instead of filling a bottomless pit. I won by becoming the kind of mother I had always wanted to be. Present. Happy. Free. Spring arrived with unexpected gentleness. Mila's 10th birthday dawned bright and clear. Perfect picnic weather. I spread blankets in the park while Aunt Carol set up folding chairs. Mrs. Wilson unpacked her famous potato salad. James arrived with a cooler full of juice boxes and soda. Uncle Robert had driven down the night before, staying at a nearby hotel so he could help with setup. Mila ran through the grass with her friends, her laughter carrying on the breeze. No anxiety about who might not show up. No disappointment shadowing her joy. Just pure, uncomplicated happiness. I watched her and I felt it. The bone-deep certainty that I had done the right thing. That the pain of setting boundaries, of facing my family's anger, of being labeled the difficult one, had been worth it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The message was brief. I have been thinking about your letter. Maybe we could talk sometime. If you are willing. No pressure. Mom. I read it twice. The old Maya would have responded immediately, eager to heal the rift, ready to meet her halfway even if halfway meant 90% of the distance. The new Maya set the phone down and returned my attention to my daughter's party. Later. Maybe. On my terms. If and when I was ready. For now, I had everything I needed. I had reclaimed my life. I had protected my child. I had learned that family was not an obligation, but a choice. One that should be mutual and life-giving. I had learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who refuse to see your worth. And I had learned that on the other side of that terrible, necessary grief was something better. A life built on respect, on genuine connection, on love that did not demand you set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Mila ran over, her face flushed with joy. Mama, this is the best birthday ever. I pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, feeling the solid weight of her in my arms. I am so glad, baby. And everyone I love is here. Her simple observation held no trace of the sadness that had shadowed her words a year ago. Everyone who matters, I agreed, because that was the truth. Everyone who mattered was here, and the people who were not had made their choice, just as I had made mine. I chose peace. I chose boundaries. I chose a smaller circle of genuine love over a large network of obligatory toxicity. I chose me. I chose Mila. I chose life. And I would make that choice again, every single day, for the rest of my life.